I am Shauna Haley. I'm your host for today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining TAMIO. We know we have some non-TAMIO members on the line today too, so welcome, and we hope you enjoy the content that we produce as an organization. Taylor Swift has released more than 400 songs. I know Anne is going to talk about it, so I'm not going to delay in getting started today because there's a lot to go through. Our webinar today is focused on giving your tortured communications department a break and creating an army of passionate fans who will fight your snakes and sing your praises through every era by following the manuscript outlined by the great and powerful Taylor Allison Swift herself. Our speaker today is Anne Beck. She is a true Swiftie, and she has experience in both news and marketing with a heavy emphasis on photography, graphic design, and social media. She's a certified public communicator, as well as a certified park and recreation professional. A lot of letters that basically tell us that she is a real-life Leslie Knope. And we're proud that she's a multi-award winner from TAMIO, 3CMA, and TRAPS, which is Texas Recreation and Park Society. She does believe that a good Swiftie social post never goes out of style, so you can imagine how busy she's been over the last 2 weeks. We are recording this webinar today. We're going to post it to the TAMIO website in a few days, so if you want to go back and refer to anything that Anne talks about, it will be there. Anne, I'm going to hand it over to you, but I'll tell the group you can drop your questions in the Q&A if you want to make sure that I spot them, or you can drop them in the chat, and I will do my best to keep an eye on the conversation going there. Anne, it's all yours.
Okay, good morning, y'all. I'm very excited to get started here. I do have a QR code at the very end that has an outline of everything that we covered, kind of the key points. So don't feel like you have to just take tons of notes if you want to just sit back and relax and enjoy it. But like Shanna said, it'll be recorded, so you can always go back and watch it again and again and again. All right, so let's get into it. We are all talking about building a community around your brand, around your organization, your city, inspired by the lessons of Taylor Swift. So, regardless of your musical tastes, I'm sure that you are aware of the singer, songwriter, director, actor, artist named Taylor Swift. She's the highest grossing touring artist, the most streamed female artist, the winner of dozens of major awards, and over 100 world records. But you might not be aware that she's also highly respected for her business strategy. In between her ability to create buzz to her influence over the industry, there's not only volumes of literature written, but entire college courses dedicated to covering the economics and marketing of Taylor Swift. One of the most often discussed aspects of her success comes from her incredibly passionate fan base. Swifties, as they're known, are admired and feared the world over, especially on the internet, but we should all be so lucky as to have them in our corner. So if you want to create a love story like that with your residents, then you belong with me on this musical journey through 11 eras of important marketing lessons from Taylor Allison Swift. Now, heads up for the fans, the songs and the eras are in the order that makes the most sense for the presentation, so do not attack me on Tumblr for the lack of chronological accuracy. Now, I know this is what you came for, so get ready for it. Here we go. We're starting at the very beginning with the debut album that set the tone for what was to come. One thing Taylor Swift has been known for from the start, other than writing Dear John songs to her exes, is her work ethic. She's incredibly well respected in the industry, not for the volume or popularity of her work, but her dedication to its quality. She's one of Rolling Stone's 100 greatest songwriters of all times and was named the most influential artist by the Music Publishers Association. She's considered by many to be the last great American dynasty of the rock star, the consummate performer who can write, perform, and sell the music that actually also draws huge crowds. But for Taylor, creating timeless quality work comes above all else. She will often go off the grid when working on a new album to be completely focused on the product. That's highly unusual, especially in our chronically online world, but the work comes first. She prepared for the mind-bogglingly involved Eras tour by singing her songs on the treadmill over and over until she had the stamina to keep the energy up for the entire 3.5-hour set. She knows her most loyal and passionate fans would rather wait for her quality, and they're not impressed by filler. She takes her time to develop the alchemy, and it shows. It also helps her earn respect and admiration from fans and critics alike. The work hits different when it had a lot of effort and intention behind it. not just because of the quality, but because she makes a point to show how hard she works and cares. She accepted an honorary doctorate from NYU and said, "I'm a big advocate for not hiding your enthusiasm for things. Never be ashamed of trying. Effortlessness is a myth." Now, this is something that we can take to heart in our own operations. If you want people to care, you have to care first, and they have to see it in the quality of your work. Half-hearted performances don't get screaming fans, and subpar city services don't get rave reviews. So you shouldn't tolerate it. Before you sign off on anything, from a flyer design to a social post, you want to make sure that it's something that every single person on your team would be proud to say is mine. It might take you more than a fortnight to get it right, but don't your residents deserve the best? It's also important to show that you're putting in the work. Share the stories of your superstar staff going above and beyond. Even just showcasing different jobs at work will help your residents see how much work goes into providing those top quality programs and services that aren't just great when they open, but stay beautiful thanks to years of careful attention. And that's when you'll earn their appreciation and start really building that Swiftie loyalty. Our newest era tortured post department is raw, emotional, and real. And that's the lesson that we learned from it. You have to be real to be relatable. Just because you have high standards doesn't mean you should sit on a throne. The last thing you want to do is create an illusion of perfection just to watch your castles crumbling when something that's completely out of your hands inevitably goes awry. Actually, it's far more valuable to let your audience in. Let them see the real you, imperfections and all. The only artist that's on the same level as Taylor right now, whether for fame or success or industry respect, is Beyonce. And you could make the argument and make the case for which one is the bigger or more important artist. And either argument you make would really be correct. But there's a huge difference in how the two are seen and treated, even by their most passionate fans. Beyonce is on a pedestal. She is loved, beloved, worshipped even. It's almost like she walks on holy ground and that her very presence was foretold in the prophecy. But you can't really picture her eating cereal on the couch. If you ran into Beyonce on the street, you'd probably whisper and freeze and awe and shock. It's a reverential relationship. Taylor, on the other hand, from the very first night, has seemed like one of the most relatable billionaires to ever walk the earth. She doesn't just feel like someone you could pour your heart out to, but like someone who wants to hear it and would give you a hug at the end. It's her raw and honest personal storytelling that she shares in her work that's broken down those walls and let people in, that created a fan base that's not just passionate about her, but feels comfortable with her. And while we'd all like to be the Beyonce of city government, what our residents need more than a Beyonce is a bestie, right? They need to feel like they know you. They need to feel safe and sound with you, enough to share when something goes wrong and they need help. And like you actually care when something goes well and you want to celebrate with them. Rather than governing from the outside or from behind a curtain like the great and powerful Oz, you have to put your face and the faces of your team front and center. You want to let your experts speak on the important issues, get them in the community, making introductions, hopefully making friends. Get them out there communicating, building relationships when times are good, so that residents feel like they have someone and something to turn to when times are bad. You have to be authentic and personal with them if you want them to do the same with you. Being real with your audience also means recognizing your own weaknesses and acknowledging when you are your own anti-hero. It's the honesty that makes a difference, that makes you truly relatable. And the confidence to be willing to admit these faults makes you earn their respect. Taylor is the first to talk about being a weird cat lady or post embarrassing photos. It's not about having a perfectly polished image. It's about being real. Don't you all have a few quirks and flaws you'd like to ignore? But instead, try putting it front and center, like sharing outtakes of videos or acknowledging a misspelling on the front page of 10,000 already printed newsletters. Yeah, we've been there, right? It can also just be leaning into something that's silly in our world, like our friends in Pflugerville do with the spelling of their name, or in Mansfield, we have a completely bizarre pickle parade, but go with it, right? Be authentic, not forced, but real. Up next, reputation. And reputation is exactly what you think it's going to be, knowing who you are. Because before you jump, then fall down the rabbit hole of embracing all your quirks, you need to clearly define the big picture. Who are you as a city? Having a distinct style is crucial to keeping your fans loyal. They will be willing and excited to grow with you as long as you remain true to your core values and identity. Now, this isn't something that you can copy from another city or generate via AI. It needs to be created by your organization, your people, your community, because it needs to reflect your organization. If you don't have a clear picture of who you are and what your reputation is or should be, then how can you expect anyone else to understand it either? And if they don't know who you are, then how do they know if they want to follow you? Every community's brand will be completely different, from Coney Island and Carolina to Paris and even Florida. If you don't have a mission and vision statement, but have been thinking about working on it, I wish you would. It is so important to get everyone on the same page as far as what you believe in, what you're working for, and what matters and who you are. Once you've defined that reputation, run every decision you make through that filter, whether it's a TikTok or a manuscript. Taylor once shared some advice to a fan struggling with confidence that was pretty simple. If they don't like you for being yourself, be yourself even more. She understands that it's only by really leaning in and accepting ourselves as a whole picture and living that truth completely can we ever really feel confident or gain anyone's trust. It's also about embracing that duality. When Taylor first got vocal about politics in 2018, she had this quote: "I want to love glitter and also stand up for double standards. I want to wear pink and also tell you how I feel about politics. I don't think those two things have to cancel each other out." That's an area a lot of celebrities stay away from for fear of offending someone or losing fans, but she was proud to take a stand, and her fans responded with deeper respect for her conviction, even the ones that didn't agree with her take. One Instagram post by Taylor was credited with getting 65,000 people to register to vote, because she was encouraging fans to be all parts of themselves, girly and fun, but also educated and involved. Too often we worry about creating a niche and think we have to have a brand identity to be known for the one thing. But your brand or style isn't one thing you do. No more than who you are as a person is your job or your hobby or your family. It's all of that together. So we need to embrace all parts of our cities, all departments, all neighborhoods, all cultures, all residents. Your reputation is also what you care about, what you believe in, and your approach to things. When Taylor got involved in politics, she didn't suddenly become serious and angry. She did it with glitter and fun because she knows who she is. And altogether, this definition will help you find a place in this world for your organization and how you fit into the larger community, which will help your fans know that they belong with you too. Up next is Fearless, which obviously is all about taking risks. Constantly pushing the creative boundaries to keep fans enchanted is the secret to Taylor's success. Fan bases like Swifties don't develop around groups that maintain the status quo. It's also what's helped her continue adding fans over the years, many of whom were not even alive when her first album debuted. None of us can survive off of our first big win, our original group of cheerleaders, no matter how passionate they start out. If you want a consistent supply of groupies, you've got to be fearless in your operations. Make no mistake, having a clear identity doesn't mean you should be pigeonholed into one look or one lane. If you want to have an impact and excite fans, you should be constantly looking for multiple paths of connection and expression. Your brand can be bigger than the whole sky, with programs, amenities, events, and services that reach in multiple directions and serve a wide range of people. Taylor branched out from music to films, art, and a number of other avenues that increase her exposure to new audience while giving her the freedom to let those creative sparks fly and stay energized. She's worked with cutting-edge producers from every genre of music to keep developing new sounds. If you're not quite fearless yet when it comes to trying something new, start with what already works and branch out from there. She got into acting and directing by making her music videos longer, approaching it as if this was a movie. And that gave her the creative freedom to do something more, try something new, and keep her fans excited to see what was next. So do you have a thriving program or campaign you can expand upon? If your Citizens Academy books up every time you host it, can you add more sections or offer a virtual version? Or create subsets of the program for different user groups, like one focused just on teens or seniors, and really tailor the content, pun intended, to those groups. Even better, you can take something that works but is just kind of blah and push yourself to do more. Rather than hosting a boring public meeting, make it a party, right? Theme it around something that's happening in your city or holiday, even the silly holidays. National Donut Day would be a great opportunity to ask residents a whole lot of questions, but enjoy some sprinkled sweetness in between. It'll take a little extra work up front to plan, but you'll get way more attention from your residents and exponentially more valuable engagement as a result. You don't want to be haunted by the fear of failure or regret, right? You want to share your wildest dreams with residents and ask them to join you. It'll be a little scary at first to put yourself out there, but of all the choices you make, the only foolish one will be the one to never try. Even if you don't achieve greatness right away, soon you'll get better. And most importantly, they'll love the excitement and challenge of being along for the ride. Okay, if you know the album Red, you understand why this era is all about embracing the hard times. Life isn't always easy, and even rock stars and rock star cities struggle and make mistakes. Nobody expects you to be perfect. And the stronger your fan base is, the more understanding they will be of every inevitable glitch. The key is to, of course, shake it off and keep moving, right? You don't want to get consumed by mistakes and wear them like the albatross around your neck, or everyone else will feel like that too. Eventually, you will learn that failures are like teardrops on the guitar. They're the things that force you to grow and learn and help you get better and more creative. As Taylor once said, my response to anything that happens, good or bad, is to keep making things, keep making art. You can't dwell on what happened. You want to focus on what it can teach you, and your audience will be there in a state of grace to have your back far more than if you were pouting or pointing fingers. If you do screw up, the best thing you can do for your community is come right out and say, I did something bad. Your fans will respect you far more for acknowledging what you would have, could have, should have done than for trying to deny or ignore it. Even if it takes a while until you're out of the woods, you look far better getting in front of things than trying to deny and deflect. Taylor's changed lyrics that were offensive and edited a music video after concerns that it was promoting disordered eating. Too often, we as cities get defensive and we want to resist admitting a mistake or changing course due to public feedback. It's an understandable gut reaction to blame uninformed residents or miscommunication and say, well, we know better and we should just ignore the complaints. But it's not about caving to pressure. It's about listening to your audience and responding accordingly, rather than letting bad blood grow. Even a loyal fan base can fall apart. And often it's not the big things that do it, but a rather slow and painful death by 1,000 cuts, with lots of little issues left unresolved, small problems not addressed that add up to a loss of support, questions and comments left unanswered. If you ignore and override their concerns enough, your residents will give up. They'll say, I hate it here, and lose all trust in your entire organization. Okay, we're at the halfway point, and we are at 1989, which is the pop Bible that was a turning point in Taylor's career because it launched a new sound. And one of the keys to Taylor's sustainability as an artist is her enthusiasm for change. She hasn't been resting on her greatest hits, but rather keeps growing and changing with her audience and their changing needs. It would be really easy to jump on the gold rush of success and just keep churning out the same style of mass appeal top 40 hits that made you famous. But even your biggest fans stop paying attention when you're delivering nothing new. Just like we discussed pushing creativity and fearless, if you never grow up and expand and develop, then your audience won't grow either. We've all seen this sad, beautiful, tragic superstar who can't move on from their one-hit wonder, living in self-imposed exile because they won't try to grow. And I'm sorry to say, I've seen the same thing of cities. You get one amazing facility or one super popular event or campaign and go all in on that, ignoring all the other needs in the community or the lagging response from your residents as they begin to see those once exciting programs as an old cardigan tossed under someone's bed. As your city grows and evolves in demographics, development, and industry trends, so too must you begin again and keep trying to find something new if you want to stay relevant and keep your fans passionate. Many of Taylor's first fans started following her as teens and tweens, but Taylor has been adamant from the beginning that her music was never meant for only the young. One important note, though, is that it's always been an evolution and not a revolution. She's not Madonna completely reinventing herself into an almost unrecognizable new person altogether. But it's a gradual shift from country to slightly pop, then slightly alternative, and so on. That carefully measured change keeps things from being too jarring or off-putting. So it's not like you buy the latest album from your favorite artist and suddenly everything has changed. It's more in line with how people themselves grow, slowly and in phases. Taylor was once asked about that changing style, and she said, "I never wanted to tear my house down because I built this house." It's a great reminder that any sort of change or update needs to stay true to the foundation that you've already built. If you tear it completely down, it's not just confusing, but it's a slap in the face of your most loyal fans. You're telling them that they're wrong and criticizing, even if it's inadvertently, something that they love. It's a guaranteed way to alienate your squad and keep them from ever giving something new a chance. But by evolving her style, she's giving them reasons to come back and be here with her as they all grow up together. There's no question when Taylor says "me" that anyone knows what she means, even though that has meant different things over the years. And that's what we all want, right? Is that same well-defined recognition for our city and our brand. So if you've got a major change coming, maybe a new website or a logo, or even a change in how you pick up trash or operate council meetings, try to roll it out in phases. Share the details as the transition happens to build excitement and help residents feel like they're on the journey with you, like they're part of the process, so they're not shocked by the sudden upheaval. Also, avoid speaking negatively about the old way, because it's guaranteed to alienate the people who preferred that. Instead, you want to form a bridge, also a Taylor pun, if you know, you know, connecting the two phases and talk about what this new chapter means while still honoring the old. Okay, Speak Now is all about doing exactly that, speaking up for yourself and your fans. So having a loyal group of followers means you have to be a leader. It means understanding that two is better than one and many is better than two. So forming that mutually beneficial relationship where you stand up for yourself and your fans will help those powerful bonds really stick. Taylor famously took all of her music off of Spotify a few years ago, right before the release of a new album, until they changed their contracts to give smaller artists better pay. So she doesn't need the money, and it didn't really do anything for her, but she used her pull as a top artist to advocate for real change in the industry. That selfless act didn't benefit her, but it also didn't benefit her audience, but it did earn her a ton of respect, both in the industry and with her fans, and reinforced their support and admiration for her. So how can you advocate for your residents? I would guess you're probably already doing it, but are you telling them that you're doing it? Do your city leaders ever knock on the other side of the door, working at the county or state level to fight for tax relief or zoning cases, causes that will greatly benefit your community? Share that, explain it, let residents know you have your back, right? We're fighting for you. If there's a neighboring city that's struggling with a disaster or a tragedy, rally your people to step in, whether it's sending over staff or assisting on a campaign that the whole public can get involved in. And then share that good news. Give residents something to be proud to be part of. No matter how it feels sometimes, you're not on your own, kid. And that's why it's important to stand up for your team as well. Taylor gave over $50 million in bonuses to the crew working on her tour. That cold hard cash also came with personal handwritten notes of gratitude. So does treating your staff well impact the experience that residents receive? Absolutely. Happy employees are more engaged, more caring, and more committed to the organization and its goals, which will show in every aspect of the service that they provide. Your residents, in turn, will see how you treat employees and respond with that respect. We all want to be associated with a group or a leader who's kind and generous, and modeling that for residents will give them one more reason to be your biggest fan. Too often, however, advocacy is also less about changing the world, and it's instead about putting your foot down and telling someone who's being unreasonable or disrespecting boundaries that this is why we can't have nice things. In 2017, Taylor sued a DJ for groping her during a publicity visit. He countersued, saying she just wanted attention and money, but she repeatedly explained to fans in emotional posts on social media and interviews that it wasn't about the money. It was about holding him accountable for his actions and preventing that behavior from happening again. And of course, she won, earning every penny of the $1 that she asked for, and then promptly made a huge donation to a local foundation for sexual assault survivors. She had to be the bad guy to fight for the principle of the matter and make her boundaries clear. No one wants to be mean and battle a resident violating a zoning ordinance or causing a scene at a public meeting, but odds are, if you stay calm, breathe, and clearly communicate the process, both with the offending party and especially with your fans, they'll understand and support you and even have your back and fight for you when the issue arises again. Just because you're not sorry for having to step in doesn't mean you don't want to keep the peace with your residents, and you need to act accordingly. Just like how Taylor outlined the facts of her case each time to her fans, we can do the same. And if we can do that, explain to residents how banning confetti in your parks isn't because you want to ruin the party and just keep everything perfectly clean, but because it'll kill wildlife and wreak havoc on our waterways. So we'll earn their respect and increase loyalty and get them to join the squad and advocate on our behalf. It's equally important to know when you can't speak up anymore. You can't speak now. You can't stand up because relationship sometimes just isn't salvageable. You have to walk away from a vendor or a partner organization and tell them point blank, we are never, ever getting back together. We all want to be flexible and build those bridges, but at some point the bridges catch fire and you have to put it out before it spreads. A bad relationship or failed project isn't just a frustrating waste of time, but it reflects badly on your organization. It feels out of brand, and it'll cost you trust from the public who expects better from you. Taylor attempted a reconciliation with Kanye after the infamous VMA incident, but was burned again in 2021 when he used her image in a video without permission. The back and forth was ugly, to say the least, and it was a bad look for everyone involved, Taylor included. Fans don't want to be embroiled in a controversy and forced to pick sides and hear debates. Sometimes the best thing you can do is rise above, even when you're right, and be the adult who walks away. Right? We've all had an unhappy customer, someone who's just being unreasonable or loud for no reason. It's tempting to stoop to their level, but you have to stay focused on your goal. Taking the high road and succeeding is far better than revenge for yourself, your team, and especially for your standing with your fan base, who will just get turned off by the messy drama. Remember your reputation, speak up to protect it for the sake of your brand, and more importantly, your fans. Folklore is an album of stories. And as communicators, we know that the best stories start with listening, right? And that's where the best connections start too. How you get the girl and boy to be your biggest fan is pretty simple. It's human nature to want to be included, right? To be part of something that's bigger than yourself. Your residents want to feel like part of something and connected to you, but first they need to feel heard. At the most basic level, it's communication, but I'm not saying just run home and speak now. Talking just for the sake of saying something essentially says nothing. The best communication starts with listening, so you know who to respond to and what they want and what they need to hear. Ask them, tell me why you like this or don't, and what do you need from us? Ask them, what can we do to make this city your wonderland? People appreciate it when it feels like you are actually listening. And when you get those answers, you want to be sure and identify the needs and desires and reflect them back to them like a mirror ball, shining in every direction and showing them, I can see you and I've heard your concerns and understand. This can be as simple as a few words thrown into a social post. Rather than just saying, hey, this road is under construction, you can say, you told us that roads are your highest priority, so we're fixing 10 potholes a week until they're all done. Remind them that they aren't invisible. To the contrary, your city and its services are designed by them for them, which will help them feel like they're part of the process. The key is not just listening and solving the problem, but saying, look what you made me do, connecting the dots between what they said and what happened as a result. This takes personalized, direct communication. Taylor famously lurks on Tumblr and Instagram, commenting on fans' posts, even when they have nothing to do with her. She's been known to leave inspiring messages, respond to jokes, and even leave hints about future work. It's random and chaotic, but that's what makes it feel so real. And yes, this is the same thing that you should be doing on your feeds. Always keep your eyes open. Scan locations to see posts tagged at your parks and facilities, and at the very least, like them. But when you can, comment with something personal, not just thanks for visiting, but wow, that's an impressive run. Or, hey, if you like coffee, you should check out the shops we have downtown. I'm not saying I look in people's windows, but I do try and monitor every Facebook group and chatter space that I can to stay connected with what residents are thinking, needing, and looking for at any given time. By then offering specific recommendations and comments, You can let them know that you're paying attention and you care about their experience. The same goes with emails and online reviews. You want to work on improving your response time and thank people for reaching out, good or bad. Tell them that you'll pass it along. It reinforces those comments as a conversation, just as it should be, a two-way discussion shared by both parties, not just them shouting into the void of a robotic customer service platform. Okay, as to be expected, the lover era is all about living in that lavender haze with your residents and really showing how much you care. I don't have to tell you that it's nice to have a friend. And that's what the best fandoms are built around. Real two-way relationships that feel like a genuine connection. It's your job as the city representative to take the first step. Tell your residents you are the love of my life, and don't be afraid to be loud and passionate. You want to shower them with happiness and sweet nothings, even if you don't believe it at first, and especially if it isn't reciprocated. It is your duty as the face of the city to set the tone, and that tone should be bejeweled with sunshine and rainbows, even if you have to keep it tied together with a smile until it's truly ingrained in your mindset. You have to sing the praises of your fans on a regular basis. Tell them you are in love with them, how gorgeous they are, and how much you appreciate them. If you can feature regular users and residents in your social content, or even better, invite them to participate in a planned photo and video shoot or surveys and focus groups. Let them know you care about them and their opinion. Showing real residents' faces and words in your promotions and your social feeds also shows other people what they're missing out on by not being a part of your community. They'll see you saying, hey, we were happy, and they'll want to be part of that fun too. Joy is contagious. It's human nature, right? We all want to be part of a winning team and respond well to positive, feel-good news and happy photos. An honest, local, relatable feel-good story is sweeter than fiction and an excellent way to get your fans to love you back. If you have a major event, an award, a grand opening, or just the best day for any random reason, talk about it, right? Post it on your feeds. Tell everyone why today was a fairy tale and thank them for being a part of it. That extra reminder for the ones who were there will reinforce their commitment and elicit jealousy on the ones who weren't. It tells everyone that they should be paying attention or they'll miss out. When users feel like they have that relationship with you, they have more buy-in, more ownership, and they're more committed to your overall success. One important way to build that is through exclusive experiences for your top fans. Maybe an after-hours New Year's Day event at the rec center for only the most active members, or a t-shirt for anyone who attends a public meeting, or invitation-only focus group for your most vocal renegade keyboard warriors to gather feedback, asking them to help you plan the future. Give them a sneak peek of a new city facility. Tell them, I know places you'll want to see, and I want you to see it before anyone else. If you make it clear that they've earned the bonus, they'll value it more, and that'll help motivate the lukewarm fans to want to be more than just friends. It doesn't have to be as complex as a private event. If you've seen the Eras Tour or the Eras Tour film, you might have noticed the interactive stage, the LED screens, and the lighted wristbands. Those were all designed specifically to ensure that every guest, no matter how terrible their seats, had an incredible night and felt like a part of the show. So what can you do within your own city services to really personalize the residents' experience, or at least give a little extra attention to the entire process? What kind of message are your city services and communications efforts sending, especially to those residents in the nosebleed seats, right? Do they say, I can see you and I care? Or do they say, I forgot you existed? Yeah, a little attention can go a long way to improving both the process and in turn your relationship. These private events are the hallmarks of one of the hallmarks, of Taylor's relationship with her Swifties. She's been holding super exclusive invite-only listening parties before the launch of albums for years, and it's one of the most coveted fan prizes of all time. It's also worth noting that they've yet to have a single song leak from these events. If she is Willy Wonka, all those invited guests are Charlie, the diehard loyal and unwilling to put their selfish desires in front of a personal gain for their hero. And that's the kind of loyalty that we're talking about growing. Customers, guests, visitors, to create a solid fan base of loyal, committed, diehard fans that you want, you have to think of them like so much more than that. Call it what you want. They need to be treated like besties. Again, so much of this comes down to how you phrase things. Don't tell them the story of your community's history. You want to tell them the story of us, right? It's our shared history. It doesn't have to be elaborate. As Taylor famously said in one of her first big hits, our song isn't a soaring emotional ballad. It's a slamming screen door, because it's in those intimate shared moments that you really build a deep relationship. Okay, the Midnights era is one of my favorites, and Taylor Swift fans know all too well what I'm talking about. Right? She's become a legendary mastermind at puzzles, games, messages in a bottle, and secret codes embedded in a blank space in the background of an Instagram post. Of course, I'm talking about the Easter eggs that Taylor leaves in a complicated labyrinth for fans to unravel as they wait for new music. Sometimes it's the color of her dress. Often it's more elaborate, and the crazier it gets, the more passionate her fandom becomes. Sure, some people think she's a completely mad woman, but from a marketing perspective, she's the man. The weeks leading up to new album releases become nothing short of a frenzy, with the anticipation matched only by the fun that Swifties have trying to unravel it all. But isn't that the end game? Building excitement and buzz, getting your most passionate fans even more excited? This is absolutely something you can take back to your city. It might take a while to work up to her level, but the next time you have to make a big announcement, even if it's something simple like the annual Christmas festival, find ways to draw it out. What details can you withhold? Can you give hints and make a game of it? Don't just post a reminder for Small Business Saturday, make a scavenger hunt. Hide clues on your new website and invite the public to find them all, forcing them to explore all of those pages that you worked so hard on building. And when your fans feel like they're part of the build-up, they're even more committed than before. And you want to let that afterglow of the exciting challenge reflect back on you as the cool city who created this moment of joy for them. Everyone wants to be the lucky one who figures it out. So shouldn't your city be the lucky one whose brand really benefits? Okay, this section is not actually an era. It's not an album. It's a lot of albums, but it's an incredibly important point to make. If you're going to build a strong fan base, you have to trust them. You have to raise your expectations a little bit and trust them to trust you and support you, even when you have to do something a little unorthodox. So, long story short, a few years ago, Taylor Swift tried to buy her original masters, the rights to her first 7 albums, which were still owned by her original record company, or so it goes with most standard contracts. Not only did those rights give them the power to license the music for other uses, but all the people involved in the original creation would still be profiting off of her. And some of those people had been accused of some pretty illicit affairs. So, acting in line with her values, and you could say her brand, Taylor wanted nothing to do with those people. So she sought to retain control of all of her music. They refused to sell to her, saying if she wanted the rights, all you had to do is stay and continue working for us. Perhaps if her former manager had been a better man, that would have been an option, but for Taylor, the idea was treacherous. The only way to own the rights to the music she wrote and made famous was to re-record every song and convince fans to trust her, listening only to Taylor's version and not the original. I know it sounds like champagne problems, but again, Taylor's known for defiantly sticking to her principles no matter what. And this was something that she felt like was necessary to get closure. But it's also a huge ask of fans to buy entire albums they already own and to stop listening to music they fell in love with decades ago. Everyone said it was a fool's errand, impossible and petty. They didn't think she'd go through with it and called her bluff on what seemed like a hoax. But Taylor's fans had her back. She explained the detail in emotional social posts, and they came out in full force, ready to dispense karma on her behalf. So, how did it end? Well, not only have Taylor's versions been well received, but they've broken records and been nominated for Grammys. That record producer knows that he could have made this a whole lot easier. Sorry, and I think he knows what a mess he caused. But it's the perfect example of how having faith in your audience can pay off. Sometimes city government is complicated, and projects get delayed, taxes are confusing, and things don't work out as planned. Residents can tell when things are going sideways, and they're going to ask the question. It's really easy to brush over facts and pretend like something never happened, figure out a lowest common denominator answer. But I'm challenging you to try a little bit harder and believe in your residents. The next time you're down bad, loop them in and share the issue. Explain the reasoning and the goal. You'll be surprised how quickly they jump to your defense. They'll end up as some of your biggest cheerleaders, and when things finally resolve, they'll be that much more invested. They don't expect you to be Superman, but they do expect honesty. If you trust them to understand the issue and support you, You'll help them see that the conflict is not yours to fight alone, but ours to face as a community. And there's nothing that strengthens a bond quite like battling demons and winning together. Okay, the Evermore era is our last one. It's all about emotion and reflection. And we're wrapping up not by looking back, but talking about how our fans can help reflect further and longer than you might think possible. Creating Swifties for your city makes everything else you do so much easier. It forms an untouchable bond with the people that you serve. But more importantly, it's not a quick fix or a temporary solution. When cultivated and nurtured, it can last evermore. Building a following isn't easy, but it's worth it. Your strongest supporters don't need flashy programs and services. They're happy with paper rings and simple things, right? It's the emotion behind the action that they connect to. And they're also quick to extend that support beyond your usual boundaries. We've all heard that Taylor's tour has made her over $1 billion, but she's not the only one benefiting. When she sang Welcome to New York, every city rolled out the red carpet and cashed in. 2 nights in Denver generated $140 million for the area. The opening nights were more profitable for the city of Glendale than the Super Bowl, which was held there 1 month earlier. In a stagnant economy, this tour was a white horse, saving the day to the tune of $5 billion globally. Even the NFL, which has no official link to her, says that they received $400 million boost this year thanks to her sudden interest in the game. So it's easy to see how a global pop star has a far reach, but there's no reason that your city's brand can't do the same. A strong, passionate fan base will rally around bond elections and participate in feedback meetings, but they'll also represent your city in the community, out in the world. What a gift that would be to have thousands of enthusiastic fans advocating for you purely because of this love they feel for you. This is the power of creating Swifties. So all of the things that we've talked about today may seem so high school, just silly tricks and frivolous games that sound nice, but don't fit into your larger communication plans or more likely busy schedules, right? But I'm telling you, this is the stuff of suburban legends. This is how you take the leap from a nice city to a strong community, one where people want to stay for generations. The extra attention up front will save you tenfold down the road, since developing a passionate fan base means you've got people who will have your back forever and always, advocating on your behalf, helping you develop better services and programs, and acting as an invisible string, keeping you connected with the entire community. You need these people in your corner, and it is worth the work to make it happen. I had the epiphany to create this session almost 2 years ago when I was logged into 4 different Ticketmaster accounts, desperately trying to get my 3 daughters into Taylor's upcoming tour. That was the moment I knew that she was really onto something and had some really great lessons that could be applicable far beyond music. Once I started writing this, I will admit it snowballed, and I realized pretty quickly what it was becoming. I should have said no, and I promise this is me trying to stop, but the Swifties train has left the station long ago. If you want to guess how many of Taylor's 247 songs I managed to work into this presentation, it's not 15 or 22. It's so many, in fact, that when a colleague read my first draft, she told me, "You need to calm down." She was probably right. I should regret taking this one a little too far, and I almost do, but please don't blame me for having a little too much fun. I know what you're thinking. Is it over now? I promise. This is almost the last time. I'm just telling you that story so I could use one of my favorite quotes from Taylor. She was talking about her passion for her work and said, "I'm always going to care. There's never going to be a time where I'm going to be nonchalant or casual." And I think that's the perfect summation of this entire presentation. If we want a strong community and a strong connection with our residents, we can't be half-hearted or hesitant. We have to be all in for the love of the job, the love of the place, the love of making the world better for the people that we serve. Life is too short, and this work is too important to worry about being too enthusiastic or too passionate. Regardless of how you feel about Taylor Swift's music, I hope you're walking away at least inspired by her drive to connect to the world around her by unabashedly building those bridges brick by brick, beat by sick beat. I know this was a divergence from our normal presentations, but I bet the next time you think about marketing, you'll think about Taylor Swift. And the next time you hear a Taylor Swift song, I bet you'll think about me. Until then, it's time to go and get to work. Assemble your squad of Swifties and long live passionate local government fans. The end. One last
Awesome.
slide. Sorry, here is the top QR code is for the handout with the outline of all of the bullet points that we hit on. And then the Spotify code, if you open Spotify, you can scan it in there. It's also on the handout. That is for a playlist if you are interested with all of the songs that were included in the presentation in the order that they were used.
Awesome. 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 Awesome.